Hey guys, so in this video, I'm going to be reviewing both the processes of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. And so these two processes work together very intimately to achieve one overall goal. And so this whole narrative is a story of collecting energy when it's available, saving it for later, and then releasing it when we need it. Right? And so our overall engagement between photosynthesis and cellular respiration has two main features. There's the energy movement story, right? And then there is the movement of molecules story. One of these is a cycle, and one of these is a full fluid movement. And so if we look at first the exchange of products and reactants, right? We look at these things that are being passed back and forth and work in a cycle. Yeah. So we have water, we have carbon dioxide, we have glucose, we have oxygen. All of these things are being made out of carbons, hydrogens, and oxygens. And they're just being shuffled back and forth between these two processes. And so when cellular respiration runs its mechanisms, it produces water and it produces carbon dioxide. Those two things move into photosynthesis. And are utilized by photosynthesis for its mechanisms. Right? And so it produces glucose and oxygen gas, which move into cellular respiration, just keeps going back and forth. Right? And so the reactants of one of these processes is the products of the other, and vice versa. When we look at the energy flow, right? So the energy starts in the sunlight. It passes in the middle phases into the glucose. It's stored in the glucose in the interim, right? And so the glucose is this little storage unit for the energy. It hangs on to the energy until the cell is ready to use it. When the cell is ready to use it, cellular respiration breaks open the glucose, releases the energy, and uses that energy to build ATP, which the cell can use to do work. Okay? So the energy goes from the sun to the glucose to the ATP for work. Okay? When we look at the specifics of photosynthesis, okay, the vast majority of photosynthesis on this planet occurs within multicellular organisms. Right? And so they could be plants, they could be seaweeds, algae, right? But there is other organisms like bacteria. Right? This photosynthesis that I'm talking about today is specifically for those higher order organisms, plants and algae. Because this photosynthesis is the photosynthesis that occurs within the organelle of the chloroplast. So this would be a plant cell or an algae cell. And then I have this organelle, the chloroplast. Okay. If I zoom in on the chloroplast, you'll see a couple structures. The first is the thylakoids. These are little pouches of membrane, like little water balloons, that are stacked up on top of each other and then connected to each other via membrane bridges. These are green. They're green. They're the reasons that plants are green, because these are green. Okay? Because they contain the chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is the pigment that actively catches the energy from the sunlight and harnesses it. Okay? So the thylakoid is where the light energy is actually being caught up. Okay? The thylakoids are where the first step of photosynthesis occurs, and that first step is the light reactions. Okay? So light reactions use light to do a reaction. Great name. Awesome name. Whoever named that is the best. They're the man/woman, right? Whoever they are, I love them. They're awesome. Yeah. So the light reactions occur. They make some stuff that's dumped out of the thylakoids and into the space surrounding the thylakoids, which we call the stroma. Okay. In the stroma, the second process of photosynthesis occurs. And whoever named it, this Calvin guy, he sucks, because he just named it the Calvin cycle. Stupid, useless name, completely pointless. Ugh. The Calvin cycle takes the products of the light reactions and it uses those products to generate glucose. Okay? We get our sugar at the end of the Calvin cycle. If you're interested in a little bit more in-depth explanation of these two things, you can go look at my photosynthesis and cellular respiration for AP Bio. That is somewhere on the channel if you want to know. It's there. Okay? But for our Bio 1 purposes, we got 2 steps, light reactions, Calvin cycle, they make glucose. Energy we took from the sun, collected the energy, shoved that energy into glucose, by glucose, photosynthesis complete. Okay? When it comes time to get that energy out of that glucose, to actually use it to do work, the cell is going to do cellular respiration. And cellular respiration has 3 steps. The first step is glycolysis. Lysis means to split. Glyco refers to sugar. This is the splitting of the sugar. Okay. And this step occurs within the cytoplasm of the cell. Okay. So I take my sugar and I rip it in half. Okay. I take those halvesies, which are pyruvic acids, and I put them into the mitochondria. So this organelle here is the mitochondria. Mitochondrion, if it's just one of them. Okay. Where the second step is completed. The second step is called the Krebs cycle, or alternatively known as the citric acid cycle. Okay. I see it more often as Krebs, so I usually refer to it as Krebs, but the citric acid cycle is actually a better name because citric acid is involved. It still doesn't tell us too much about it. I would name it the making carbon dioxide cycle. That's what I would call it, because it would tell you that it's making carbon dioxide. Different story, different day. Anyways, so that makes some products, some electron-carrying molecules, specifically NADH and FADH2. You don't need to know that, but that's what they are. And those molecules are carrying energy, and they are passed into the third step, which is the electron transport chain, ETC, for oxidative phosphorylation using chemiosmosis. Just call it the ETC, the electron transport chain. And this is the phase that actually generates the ATP. So now, by this point in our whole story, we've taken the energy from the sunlight, we've moved it into glucose via photosynthesis, and we have broken that glucose open to release that energy and have transferred it into ATP, which cells can actually utilize to do work. Okay? So ATP is a tiny little molecule that stores a little bit of energy that cells can manipulate to do things. Cool? Something to know. Something I come across. ATP is a molecule. It's a physical thing. It is not energy. I have too many students try to tell me that ATP is energy. ATP is not energy. ATP is a molecule that holds energy that cells can use to do work. Cool? Don't forget it. All right. Anyways, so now we're at our ATP. Cool, awesome. Cells ready to do work. Okay? And so if you were to summarize this real quick, photosynthesis is the process that stores energy when we have extra available. And cellular respiration is the process that releases it when we need it to do work. And that's it. Cool? Bye.